Do you really want to see what's under there, my king? The old priestess's warning echoed as Lucas reached for his bride's veil, the entire chapel falling silent as rumors of her disfigurement hung in the air like poison. But when the fabric dropped and gasps erupted from 300 witnesses, Lucas felt his world tilt, because the face staring back at him wasn't scarred or broken. It was perfect, impossibly perfect, and the cold calculation in those ethereal blue eyes told him he'd just married his own destruction. The veil pooled at Emma's feet like a cascade of moonlight, and Lucas felt his breath catch in his throat. She was stunning. Not merely beautiful, but possessed of the kind of ethereal loveliness that made grown men forget their own names. Her hair was spun gold, falling in soft waves past her shoulders, catching the colored light from the stained glass windows and transforming it into a halo around her face. Her eyes were the pale blue of a winter sky, framed by dark lashes that cast shadows on cheekbones so delicately sculpted they might have been carved by an artist. Her skin was flawless, unmarred by even the faintest scar, glowing with a luminescence that seemed almost supernatural in the chapel's dim interior. Welcome back to the channel, my dear friends. Before we dive deeper into the story, kindly click subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments which country you are watching from. Your support helps me bring you more thrilling stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's get into the story. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Lucas was dimly aware that he was staring, that his mouth had fallen slightly open, that every carefully constructed mask of indifference had crumbled away to reveal the shock underneath. Around them, he could hear the whispers starting, a low susurrus of amazement that rippled through the assembled wolves like wind through tall grass. Beautiful, someone breathed from the front pew. The rumors were all lies, another voice murmured. Look at the Alpha King's face. He had no idea. Emma's expression was carefully blank, but Lucas caught the slight tremble of her lower lip, the way her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on the bouquet of white roses she carried. Her eyes met his for the briefest moment, and in that instant, he saw something that made his chest constrict with unexpected guilt, profound hurt, barely concealed beneath a veneer of composure. She thought he was disappointed. The realization hit him like a physical blow. She thought his shock was displeasure, that somehow her beauty was inadequate. Emma, he said, his voice rough with emotions he couldn't name. The single word seemed to break the spell that had fallen over the chapel. The priest, who had been frozen in place with his hands still raised in blessing, cleared his throat nervously. Shall we, continue with the ceremony, my king? Lucas nodded, unable to tear his gaze away from his bride. Up close, he could see the fine tremors running through her slender frame, could see the rapid pulse beating at the base of her throat where her skin disappeared beneath the high collar of her dress. She was terrified, he realized. Absolutely terrified. But of what? Of him? Of this marriage? Of the 300 pairs of eyes boring into her back? The priest launched into the binding vase, his voice gaining strength as he recited the ancient words that would tie Lucas and Emma together for life. In werewolf culture, marriage bonds were sacred and unbreakable, sealed not just by law, but by the very magic that ran through their blood. There would be no annulment, no divorce, no escape from whatever they had created today. Do you, Liam Lucas, Alpha King of the Lucas Pack, take this woman as your mate, your Luna, your partner in all things until the moon goddess calls you home? I do. The words came automatically, born of duty and training, but Lucas found himself meaning them in a way he hadn't expected. Whatever game was being played here, whatever deception had led him to this moment, Emma didn't deserve to be collateral damage. She was innocent in all of this, a pawn in political machinations just as surely as he was. The priest turned to Emma. And do you, Emma Noah, daughter of the late Alpha Theodore Noah. Take this man as your mate, your alpha, your partner in all things until the moon goddess calls you home." Emma's voice was barely a whisper, but it carried through the silent chapel with surprising clarity. "I do." There was something in those two words, some quality of resignation mixed with defiance, that made Lucas's wolf stir restlessly beneath his skin. His wolf, which had been sullen and uninterested during the entire preparation for this wedding, was suddenly very interested indeed. It pressed against his consciousness, demanding to be let out, demanding to claim this beautiful, mysterious woman as its own. "Down," Lucas commanded silently. "Not here. Not now." The priest produced the ceremonial blade, its silver edge gleaming wickedly in the dim light. "The blood bond," he intoned, holding out the knife first to Lucas. Lucas took the blade and drew it smoothly across his palm, not flinching as pain flared bright and sharp. Blood welled up, dark red against his tan skin, and he held his hand out to Emma. This was the moment that would seal their bond, that would link their lives on a level deeper than mere legal contract. Once their blood mixed, they would be able to sense each other's emotions, to feel each other's pain and joy, to know when the other was in danger. Emma hesitated for just a heartbeat before taking the knife from the priest. Her hand shook as she pressed the blade to her own palm, and Lucas saw her bite her lip against the pain as she drew it across her skin. Her blood was brighter than his, almost luminous, and Lucas caught a scent that made his wolf howl with sudden, fierce possessiveness. She was his mate. Not just a political arrangement, not just a beautiful stranger, but his true mate. The scent of her blood confirmed what every instinct in his body was suddenly screaming. The moon goddess herself had chosen Emma for him. Their hands met, palm to palm, blood to blood, and Lucas felt the bond snap into place like a lock clicking shut. It was overwhelming, a rush of sensation and emotion that threatened to drive him to his knees. He could feel Emma's fear, sharp and acidic, but underneath it was something else, a core of steely determination, of carefully banked rage, of secrets held so tightly they had become part of her bones. Emma gasped, her eyes going wide, and Lucas knew she felt it too. The recognition, the truth that changed everything. By the power vested in me by the moon goddess and the Council of Alphas, the priest declared, his voice rising to fill the vaulted space, "I pronounce you mated and bound. May your union bring strength to both your packs, and may your love grow deeper with each passing moon." The chapel erupted in applause and howls of celebration, but Lucas barely heard them. He was lost in Emma's eyes, drowning in the pale blue depths that held so many mysteries. She stared back at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Hope, maybe, or fear, or something darker that made his protective instincts roar to life. "We need to talk," he murmured, pitching his voice low enough that only she could hear over the chaos of celebration around them. "Privately. As soon as possible." Emma's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Yes," she agreed, her voice steady despite the turmoil he could feel rolling off her through their new bond. "We do." The reception hall blazed with torchlight and the raucous energy of two packs forced into uneasy celebration. Long tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats, fresh-caught fish from the Gulf, and enough alcohol to drown the tension that crackled through the air like static electricity. Lucas sat at the head table, Emma beside him, both of them playing their parts for an audience that watched their every move with predatory interest. Through the bond, Lucas could feel Emma's carefully controlled emotions, a fortress of ice that gave away nothing except her determination to survive this night. She smiled when required, nodded graciously at the parade of well-wishers who approached to offer congratulations that rang hollow, and ate precisely 3 bites of every course that was placed before her. To anyone watching, she was the picture of a nervous but dutiful bride. But Lucas could feel the truth thrumming beneath her skin. She was a coiled spring, ready to strike. "You're good at this," he murmured, leaning close enough that his words wouldn't carry beyond her ears. "The performance, I mean." Emma's smile never wavered as she turned to face him, but her eyes were chips of blue ice. "I've had 3 years to practice, my king. 3 years of hiding, of listening to people whisper about the monster I'd supposedly become, of watching my father's legacy crumble while vultures like you circled overhead." The accusation stung more than Lucas wanted to admit. "I never spread those rumors about your appearance." "No," Emma agreed, her voice soft and deadly. "You just believed them without question. You came to this wedding expecting a monster, didn't you? Preparing yourself to fake kindness while you looked at me with pity or disgust for the rest of our lives." Lucas had no defense because she was right. He'd believed every word, had steeled himself for duty over desire, had never once questioned why a man as proud as Alpha Theodore would allow such vicious rumors about his only daughter to spread unchallenged. Why? The question burst from him before he could stop it. Why let everyone think you were disfigured? Why hide yourself away? Emma's mask slipped for just a moment, and Lucas caught a flash of something raw and painful through their bond before she locked it down again. "Because my father asked me to. Because he knew what would happen if certain people learned the truth about what I am." She paused, taking a deliberate sip of wine. "And because I needed time to prepare." Prepare for what? Before Emma could answer, a commotion erupted at the far end of the hall. A group of wolves from the Noah pack had started arguing with some of Lucas's warriors, voices rising above the music, hands moving toward weapons. Lucas was on his feet instantly, his alpha power flooding the room like a wave, forcing every wolf present to their knees with the sheer weight of his dominance. "Enough," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "This is a celebration, not the battlefield. The next person who draws a weapon answers to me personally." The room fell silent, all eyes on their Alpha King. Lucas held the pressure for another heartbeat before releasing it, allowing the assembled wolves to rise on shaky legs. The message was clear. He would tolerate no challenges to his authority tonight. But as Lucas returned his seat, he caught the expression on Emma's face and froze. She was looking at him with something that might have been approval or calculation. Through the bond, he felt a flicker of satisfaction from her, there and gone so quickly he might have imagined it. "Impressive," she said quietly. "You really are as powerful as they say." "Is that what you were testing? My strength?" Emma's smile was enigmatic. "I'm testing many things, husband. The question is whether you'll pass." The rest of the reception crawled by with agonizing slowness. Lucas fielded questions from allied alphas about the integration of Noah territories, deflected not-so-subtle probes about his bride's sudden beauty, and tried to ignore the knowing looks that passed between wolves who clearly thought they understood the situation better than they did. Through it all, Emma remained at his side, playing her role perfectly while giving away nothing. Finally, as the moon rose high over the chapel and the celebration began to wind down, Lucas knew they couldn't delay the inevitable any longer. Tradition demanded that the Alpha King and his new Luna retire to the royal chambers, where they would consummate their bond and seal their union in the most primal way possible. The entire pack would expect it, would wait outside the doors if necessary to confirm that their king had claimed his mate properly. "It's time," Lucas said, offering Emma his hand. She stared at it for a long moment before placing her palm in his, and Lucas felt the jolt of contact even through the gloves she wore. Whatever secrets Emma was hiding, whatever game she was playing, his body and his wolf had already made their position clear. They wanted her with a ferocity that bordered on madness. They walked through the corridors of Lucas's ancestral home in silence, Emma's hand resting lightly on his arm, both of them aware of the eyes that followed their progress. When they finally reached the royal chambers, a sprawling suite that overlooked the forest and the distant shimmer of the Gulf, Lucas closed the door behind them and leaned against it, studying his bride in the privacy of their own space for the first time. Emma had already moved to the windows, her back to him, her silhouette outlined by moonlight. "We need to establish some ground rules," she said without turning around. "This marriage may be binding, but that doesn't mean I trust you. And it certainly doesn't mean I'm ready to play the dutiful Luna who spreads her legs on command." Lucas should have been angry at her bluntness, should have reminded her that she was speaking to an alpha king who could command her obedience if he chose. But instead, he found himself respecting her courage. "I'm not going to force you into anything, Emma. Despite what you might think of me, I'm not a monster." "Aren't you?" She turned to face him, and in the moonlight, her beauty was almost painful to look at. "You absorbed my pack, my territory, my father's legacy. You married me without ever asking what I wanted, without ever questioning whether the arrangement served anything except your own political ambitions. How is that different from any other conqueror who takes what he wants and calls it necessity?" "Because I'm trying to save your people from collapse," Lucas shot back, his own anger finally breaking through. "Your father left the Noah pack in chaos. His debts were crippling, his alliances were falling apart, and there were 3 other packs ready to carve up your territory the moment they saw weakness. I offered you a solution that kept your wolves safe and your father's name honored. Would you have preferred I let them tear you apart?" Emma's laugh was bitter. "How noble of you. And the fact that absorbing Noah territories gave you control of the entire southeastern coastline had nothing to do with it, I suppose." "Of course it did," Lucas admitted, moving closer. "I'm an alpha, Emma, not a saint. I make decisions that benefit my pack first and foremost. But that doesn't mean I want you to suffer, and it doesn't mean I'm going to treat you like property." They stood facing each other in the moonlight, the air between them crackling with tension that was equal parts anger and something much more dangerous. Through the bond, Lucas could feel Emma's walls beginning to crack, could sense the exhaustion and loneliness that she'd been hiding beneath layers of ice and anger. "I'm tired," she said finally, her voice small in a way it hadn't been all night. "I'm so tired of fighting, of hiding, of pretending to be something I'm not. But I don't know how to stop." The vulnerability in her words cracked something in Lucas's chest. He closed the distance between them slowly, giving her time to move away if she wanted. When she didn't, he reached out and gently cupped her face in his hands, tilting it up so she had to meet his eyes. "Then don't," he said. "Don't pretend. Don't hide. Not with me. Whatever secrets you're carrying, whatever you think you need to protect yourself from, I'm your mate, Emma. That bond we felt today, that's real. The moon goddess herself chose us for each other. Doesn't that mean something?" Emma's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "It means everything," she whispered. "That's why I'm so afraid." Lucas woke to find Emma's side of the bed cold and empty. They talked late into the night, circling around truths neither of them was quite ready to speak, before finally falling asleep in the same bed without touching, a compromise that satisfied tradition while respecting Emma's boundaries. But now she was gone, and through the bond, Lucas could feel her somewhere distant, her emotions a tangle of determination and something that felt like grief. He found her in his private study, surrounded by ledgers and documents she had no business accessing. She'd changed from her wedding gown into simple traveling clothes, her hair pulled back in a severe braid that made her look younger and somehow more vulnerable than she had the night before. "Looking for something?" Lucas asked from the doorway, keeping his voice neutral despite the flash of anger at finding his private records rifled through. Emma didn't look up from the document she was reading. Your trade agreements with the coastal pacts, your supply chains, your financial arrangements with the council. She finally raised her eyes to meet his. I'm trying to understand how deep this goes. How deep what goes. The conspiracy that killed my father. The words dropped into the room like stones into still water, sending ripples of implication in every direction. Lucas stepped inside and closed the door, his mind racing. Your father died of heart failure. There was an autopsy, witnesses, a full investigation by the council. My father was 47 years old, in perfect health, and had alpha healing that should have prevented any natural heart condition from being fatal. Emma stood, moving around the desk to face him directly. 3 weeks before he died, he told me he discovered something about the council's dealings with the Gulf cartels. Something that implicated several alpha families in trafficking and smuggling operations. He was planning to bring evidence to the next council meeting. Lucas felt his blood run cold. Emma, those are serious accusations. If you're wrong, I'm not wrong. She pulled a small leather journal from her pocket and held it up. This was my father's. He documented everything, shipment dates, pack names, financial transfers that don't match any legitimate trade. He hid it with instructions that I was only to open it if something happened to him. Her voice cracked slightly. 2 days after his funeral, someone broke into our house looking for something. They tore apart his study, his bedroom, anywhere he might have kept records. But they didn't find this because I'd already moved it. Lucas took the journal from her trembling hands and began to read. What he found made his stomach turn. Alpha Theodore had been meticulous in his documentation, tracking shipments of illegal pharmaceuticals, weapons, and worse through packed territories all along the Gulf Coast. And some of the names mentioned were wolves Lucas had called allies, had trusted with his own pack's security. Why didn't you bring this to the council? Lucas asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Because I don't know who on the council I can trust. My father suspected that at least 3 council members were involved. Emma wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking very small. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I made myself unmarriageable. If I was hideously disfigured, no alpha would want to form an alliance with the Noah pack through marriage. It would buy me time to figure out who killed my father and why. But then I made my offer, Lucas said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn. And you couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. Exactly. If I'd turned down the Alpha King's proposal, it would have looked like rebellion. The council would have had grounds to strip me of my inherited territories entirely and install someone more cooperative. Emma's eyes met his, and Lucas saw the desperation there. So I accepted, and I hoped, I prayed, that maybe you weren't involved. That maybe the moon goddess had given me a mate who could help me instead of one who'd silence me permanently. Lucas set the journal down carefully, his mind working through implications and possibilities at lightning speed. If Emma was right, if her father had truly been murdered for threatening to expose council corruption, then she was in more danger than she realized. And by marrying him, by binding herself to the most powerful alpha in the region, she'd either found protection or painted an even bigger target on her back. There's something else, Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. Something my father discovered about me, about what I really am, that he kept hidden my entire life. It's why he asked me to hide after he died, why he was so paranoid about someone finding out. Before Lucas could ask what she meant, his beta's voice crackled through the pack link, urgent and laced with alarm. Alpha, we have a situation at the northern border. The Valdez pack is requesting immediate audience. They say it's about your new Luna. Lucas swore under his breath. The Valdez pack controlled territories directly north of his own, and their alpha, Roberto Valdez, was one of the names in Theodore's journal. "Stay here," he told Emma. "Don't leave this room. Don't open the door for anyone except me. Do you understand?" Emma's face had gone pale, but she nodded. Through the bond, Lucas could feel her fear spiking, and his wolf snarled in response, demanding he stay and protect his mate. But duty called, and whatever game was being played here, he needed to understand the full board before he could make his next move. The northern border was a 30-minute run through the forest at full wolf speed. Lucas shifted the moment he cleared the tree line, his massive dark wolf form eating up the ground as pack warriors fell into formation around him. Through the pack link, he could hear their thoughts, their concern, their readiness for violence if their alpha commanded it. Roberto Valdez waited at the boundary marker with a dozen of his own warriors, his arms crossed over his chest, and an expression on his weathered face that was equal parts anger and something that might have been fear. The older alpha was in his 60s, gray-haired and scarred from a lifetime of pack politics and territory disputes. "Lucas," Roberto greeted him as soon as the Alpha King shifted back to human form and pulled on the clothes his beta had brought. "We need to talk about your bride." "What about her?" Lucas kept his voice level, but his wolf was already growling, ready to defend Emma against whatever accusation was coming. "She's not what she seems," Roberto said bluntly. "Her father was protecting a secret that could destabilize every pack in the South if it got out. A secret that died with him. Or at least, we thought it did until you unveiled her yesterday." Lucas's blood ran cold. "What secret?" Roberto glanced at his warriors before stepping closer, lowering his voice so only Lucas could hear. "Emma Noah isn't fully werewolf, Lucas. Her mother was one of the last Moon-blessed, a bloodline that was supposed to have died out centuries ago. Moon-blessed wolves have abilities that make them incredibly powerful and incredibly dangerous. They can manipulate pack bonds, can force submission even from alphas, can heal wounds that would kill normal wolves. And if the old stories are true, they can see the future." The pieces were starting to fit together in Lucas's mind with horrifying clarity. The rumors of disfigurement hadn't been about protecting Emma from suitors. They'd been about protecting her from people who would want to use her abilities for their own gain. Or from people who would want her dead because she represented a threat to the established order. "Who else knows?" Lucas demanded. 3 council members knew when she was born. Theodore managed to keep it quiet by claiming she was sickly, keeping her hidden from pack gatherings, and making sure she never displayed her abilities in public. Roberto's expression hardened. "But someone found out, Lucas. Someone realized what she was and killed Theodore to get access to her. And now that you've bound yourself to her, you've made yourself a target too." Through the pack bond, Lucas suddenly felt a spike of terror from Emma, sharp and overwhelming. Something was wrong at the house. Without another word to Roberto, he shifted and ran, his wolf driving him forward with desperate speed. He burst through the study door to find Emma pressed against the far wall, her eyes glowing with an eerie silver light as she faced down 3 intruders dressed in black tactical gear. Bodies of his own guards lay scattered in the hallway outside, unconscious or worse. "Step away from my mate," Lucas snarled, his alpha power flooding the room. But the intruders didn't react, didn't so much as flinch, and Lucas realized with growing horror that they weren't responding because they couldn't feel his dominance. They were human, mercenaries who were immune to werewolf abilities. The leader raised a tranquilizer gun, aiming it at Emma. "Alpha King, we have no quarrel with you. Step aside, and let us take the girl. Our employer simply wants to talk to her." "Over my dead body," Lucas growled. But even as he said it, he saw the other 2 intruders raising their own weapons. Tranquilizer darts, he realized, probably loaded with enough sedative to drop a full-grown alpha. they'd come prepared. Then Emma moved. Her eyes flared brighter, that silver light becoming almost blinding, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees in an instant. When she spoke, her voice echoed with a power that made Lucas's wolf whimper and submit. "Leave," she commanded, and it wasn't a request. It was a compulsion woven from pure alpha energy magnified 100-fold. The intruders' guns clattered to the floor as they turned and walked out like puppets on strings, their eyes blank and empty. Emma held the power for another heartbeat before collapsing, the silver light winking out as her legs gave way. Lucas caught her before she hit the ground, cradling her against his chest as tremors racked her body. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I tried not to use it, tried to stay hidden, but they were going to take me, and I couldn't let them, I couldn't." "Sure," Lucas soothed, carrying her to the couch and sitting with her in his lap. "It's okay. You're safe now. I've got you." But even as he said it, Lucas knew nothing was okay. Emma's display of power had just revealed exactly what she was to anyone who might have been watching. And if Roberto Valdez was right about how valuable moon-blessed wolves were, then the people who'd killed her father would be coming for her with everything they had. What would you do if you discovered your spouse had powers that made them a target for assassination? Would you fight to protect them or encourage them to hide? The question hung in the air between them as Lucas held his trembling mate and listened to the sound of his warriors regrouping outside. War was coming, whether they were ready for it or not. And for the first time in his life, Lucas wasn't sure his strength would be enough to protect the person who mattered most. Lucas called an emergency council meeting for that evening, and Emma insisted on attending despite his reservations. She'd recovered from using her abilities, but Lucas could feel the exhaustion dragging at her through their bond. Still, she was right. Hiding would only make her look guilty, and they needed to take control of the narrative before someone else did it for them. The council chamber was a circular room deep in the heart of Lucas's territory, built from ancient stone that had witnessed centuries of pack politics and power struggles. 12 alphas sat around the massive oak table, representing the major packs of the southeastern United States. Lucas recognized each one. Roberto Valdez, who'd warned him about Emma's nature, Catherine Morrison from the Georgia packs, shrewd and calculating, James Thornton from Alabama, old and conservative, and 9 others who held varying degrees of power and influence. 3 of these wolves had potentially conspired to murder Theodore Noah. Lucas scanned their faces, looking for any sign of guilt or recognition as he and Emma entered the chamber. "Alpha King," Catherine Morrison said, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of Emma's appearance. "We weren't expecting your new Luna to attend council business so soon after your binding." "My Luna has every right to be here," Lucas said firmly, pulling out a chair for Emma at his right hand, a position of honor that made several alphas shift uncomfortably, especially since the attack on my home this morning directly concerns her. That caused a ripple of reaction around the table. Lucas had deliberately not shared details of the intrusion, wanting to see who already knew about it and who was genuinely surprised. "Attack." James Thornton leaned forward, his weathered face creasing with concern. "What kind of attack?" 3 human mercenaries breached my security and attempted to kidnap my mate, Lucas said bluntly. They were equipped with military-grade weapons and tranquilizers specifically. "What about her?" Lucas kept his voice level, but his wolf was already growling, ready to defend Emma against whatever accusation was coming. "She's not what she seems," Roberto said bluntly. "Her father was protecting a secret that could destabilize every pack in the South if it got out. A secret that died with him. Or at least, we thought it did until you unveiled her yesterday." Lucas's blood ran cold. "What secret?" Roberto glanced at his warriors before stepping closer, lowering his voice so only Lucas could hear. Emma Noah isn't fully werewolf, Lucas. Her mother was one of the last Moon-blessed, a bloodline that was supposed to have died out centuries ago. Moon-blessed wolves have abilities that make them incredibly powerful and incredibly dangerous. They can manipulate pack bonds, can force submission even from alphas, can heal wounds that would kill normal wolves. And if the old stories are true, they can see the future. The pieces were starting to fit together in Lucas's mind with horrifying clarity. The rumors of disfigurement hadn't been about protecting Emma from suitors. They'd been about protecting her from people who would want to use her abilities for their own gain. Or from people who would want her dead because she represented a threat to the established order. Who else knows? Lucas demanded. 3 council members knew when she was born. Theodore managed to keep it quiet by claiming she was sickly, keeping her hidden from pack gatherings, and making sure she never displayed her abilities in public. Roberto's expression hardened. But someone found out, Lucas. Someone realized what she was and killed Theodore to get access to her. And now that you've bound yourself to her, you've made yourself a target too. Through the pack bond, Lucas suddenly felt a spike of terror from Emma, sharp and overwhelming. Something was wrong at the house. Without another word to Roberto, he shifted and ran, his wolf driving him forward with desperate speed. He burst through the study door to find Emma pressed against the far wall, her eyes glowing with an eerie silver light as she faced down 3 intruders dressed in black tactical gear. Bodies of his own guards lay scattered in the hallway outside, unconscious or worse. "Step away from my mate," Lucas snarled, his alpha power flooding the room. But the intruders didn't react, didn't so much as flinch, and Lucas realized with growing horror that they weren't responding because they couldn't feel his dominance. They were human, mercenaries who were immune to werewolf abilities. The leader raised a tranquilizer gun, aiming it at Emma. "Alpha King, we have no quarrel with you. Step aside, and let us take the girl. Our employer simply wants to talk to her." "Over my dead body," Lucas growled. But even as he said it, he saw the other 2 intruders raising their own weapons. Tranquilizer darts, he realized, probably loaded with enough sedative to drop a full-grown alpha. They'd come prepared. Then Emma moved. Her eyes flared brighter, that silver light becoming almost blinding, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees in an instant. When she spoke, her voice echoed with a power that made Lucas's wolf whimper and submit. "Leave," she commanded, and it wasn't a request. It was a compulsion woven from pure alpha energy magnified 100-fold. The intruders' guns clattered to the floor as they turned and walked out like puppets on strings, their eyes blank and empty. Emma held the power for another heartbeat before collapsing, the silver light winking out as her legs gave way. Lucas caught her before she hit the ground, cradling her against his chest as tremors racked her body. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I tried not to use it, tried to stay hidden, but they were going to take me, and I couldn't let them, I couldn't." "Sure," Lucas soothed, carrying her to the couch and sitting with her in his lap. "It's okay. You're safe now. I've got you." But even as he said it, Lucas knew nothing was okay. Emma's display of power had just revealed exactly what she was to anyone who might have been watching. And if Roberto Valdez was right about how valuable Moon-blessed wolves were, then the people who'd killed her father would be coming for her with everything they had. What would you do if you discovered your spouse had powers that made them a target for assassination? Would you fight to protect them or encourage them to hide? The question hung in the air between them as Lucas held his trembling mate and listened to the sound of his warriors regrouping outside. War was coming, whether they were ready for it or not. And for the first time in his life, Lucas wasn't sure his strength would be enough to protect the person who mattered most. Lucas called an emergency council meeting for that evening, and Emma insisted on attending despite his reservations. She'd recovered from using her abilities, but Lucas could feel the exhaustion dragging at her through their bond. Still, she was right. Hiding would only make her look guilty, and they needed to take control of the narrative before someone else did it for them. The council chamber was a circular room deep in the heart of Lucas's territory, built from ancient stone that had witnessed centuries of pack politics and power struggles. 12 alphas sat around the massive oak table, representing the major packs of the southeastern United States. Lucas recognized each one. Roberto Valdez, who'd warned him about Emma's nature, Catherine Morrison from the Georgia packs, shrewd and calculating, James Thornton from Alabama, old and conservative, and 9 others who held varying degrees of power and influence. 3 of these wolves had potentially conspired to murder Theodore Noah. Lucas scanned their faces, looking for any sign of guilt or recognition as he and Emma entered the chamber. Alpha King, Catherine Morrison said, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of Emma's appearance. "We weren't expecting your new Luna to attend council business so soon after your binding." "My Luna has every right to be here," Lucas said firmly, pulling out a chair for Emma at his right hand, a position of honor that made several alphas shift uncomfortably, especially since the attack on my home this morning directly concerns her. That caused a ripple of reaction around the table. Lucas had deliberately not shared details of the intrusion, wanting to see who already knew about it and who was genuinely surprised. Attack. James Thornton leaned forward, his weathered face creasing with concern. "What kind of attack?" 3 human mercenaries breached my security and attempted to kidnap my mate, Lucas said bluntly. They were equipped with military-grade weapons and tranquilizers specifically. Then they'll learn what happens when they threaten my mate, and they'll learn it in blood. 3 months later, Emma stood in the same chapel where she'd been married, but this time she wore no veil and held no fear in her heart. The chapel had been transformed for a different ceremony, the official induction of the Luna Emma as a recognized member of the Alpha Council, a position that carried real power and authority. The trial of the 3 traitor alphas had been swift and brutal. Faced with overwhelming evidence and testimony from dozens of witnesses, all 3 had been found guilty and stripped of their pack bonds, a fate worse than death for most wolves. Their territories had been redistributed among loyal packs, and new alphas had been installed to clean up the corruption that had festered for years. But more importantly, the investigation had uncovered the full extent of the conspiracy. It hadn't been about Emma at all, not initially. The smuggling operation had been running for nearly a decade, with profits funneled through seemingly legitimate pack businesses. Theodore Noah had stumbled onto it by accident, and his murder had been a desperate attempt to silence him before he could expose the truth. Emma's moon-blessed nature had been a secondary concern, a valuable prize the conspirators had hoped to claim once her father was out of the way. They'd planned to force her into a bond with one of their own sons, using her abilities to strengthen their position and intimidate rival packs. Lucas's marriage proposal had thrown their entire plan into chaos. Now, as Emma knelt before the assembled council and felt their collective energy washing over her in acknowledgement of her new role, she understood what her father had really died protecting. Not just her safety, but the integrity of the entire pack system. He'd been willing to sacrifice everything to expose the corruption that threatened to rot the foundations of their society from within. "Luna Emma Noah Lucas," Catherine Morrison intoned, speaking for the council. "Do you swear to uphold the laws of pack society, to protect the weak, to stand against injustice, and to use your gifts only in service of the greater good?" "I swear," Emma said clearly, her voice carrying through the chapel. Through her bond with Lucas, she could feel his pride and love radiating like sunlight. "Then rise, Luna Emma, and take your place among us as a full member of this council." Emma stood, and the assembled wolves howled their approval, the sound shaking the ancient stone walls. Lucas was there immediately, pulling her into his arms and kissing her with a thoroughness that made several of the older alphas cough and look away. "I'm so proud of you," he murmured against her lips. "Your father would be proud of you." "I hope so," Emma said, but for the first time in 3 years, the thought of her father didn't bring only pain. There was pride there too, and peace, and the knowledge that she'd honored his sacrifice by finishing what he'd started. The celebration that followed was nothing like the tense, suspicious reception after their wedding. This time, wolves from a dozen different packs mingled freely, sharing food and stories and the relief that comes from surviving a crisis together. Lucas never left Emma's side, his hand constantly finding hers, his body positioned protectively even though the threat had passed. As the evening wore on, Emma found herself standing at the chapel's entrance, looking out over the forest that stretched toward the gulf. The moon was full overhead, and in its silver light, she could almost imagine she heard her mother's voice, the moon-blessed ancestor she'd never really known, whispering approval. "Regrets?" Lucas asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. Emma leaned back against his solid warmth, feeling safe and whole in a way she'd never thought possible. "None. Well, maybe one." "What's that?" "I regret that I didn't trust you from the beginning," she admitted. "I was so focused on protecting myself, on assuming you were like the others, that I almost missed seeing who you really are." Lucas turned her in his arms, so she faced him. In the moonlight, his green eyes were soft with an emotion that still made her breath catch. "You had every reason not to trust me. I believed rumors without question, planned a marriage based on duty rather than hope, and never thought to look deeper. We both made mistakes. But we fixed them," Emma said, rising on her toes to kiss him. "Together." "Together," Lucas agreed. Then, with a mischievous grin that made him look younger than she'd ever seen him, he added, "So, Luna Emma, now that you're officially powerful and important, what do you want to do first with your new authority?" Emma pretended to consider carefully. "Well, I was thinking about that law requiring all council members to wear formal robes during meetings. It seems unnecessarily stuffy." "Emma Noah Lucas," Lucas said with mock severity, "are you suggesting we rebel against council tradition?" "I'm suggesting we make new traditions," Emma corrected. "Better ones. Ones that focus on justice and truth rather than politics and power plays." She smiled. "Starting with casual Fridays." Lucas threw back his head and laughed, the sound pure and joyful in the night air. Then he swept Emma up in his arms, spinning her in a circle as she shrieked with surprised laughter. "I love you," he said when he finally set her down, his expression suddenly serious. "I don't think I've said that enough. But I do, I love you, Emma. Not because the moon goddess chose you for me, not because you're powerful or beautiful or brave, but because you're you. Because you challenge me and surprise me and make me want to be better than I am." Emma felt tears prick her eyes, the happy kind that she'd thought she might never cry again. "I love you too," she whispered. "Even though you believed I was ugly." "I was an idiot," Lucas said immediately. "Yes, you were." Emma grinned through her tears. "But you're my idiot now." "Forever," Lucas agreed, sealing the promise with a kiss that left them both breathless. Inside the chapel, the celebration continued, but Lucas and Emma stayed where they were, wrapped in each other's arms and bathed in moonlight. They'd started as strangers forced together by politics, had become allies through shared danger, and had emerged from the crucible as true partners. The road ahead would have challenges. There would always be threats to a moon-blessed Luna and the Alpha King who'd bound himself to her, but they would face them together. And somehow, that made all the difference. As they finally turned to rejoin the celebration, Emma caught sight of their reflection in the chapel window. She remembered standing in that same chapel 3 months ago, hidden behind veils and fear, preparing to marry a man she thought would see her as a monster or a tool to be used. And she remembered the moment Lucas had lifted her veil, the shock in his eyes transforming into wonder and then into something deeper. He'd thought he was marrying an ugly duckling, a political necessity that would require duty over desire. Instead, he'd found a swan, fierce and powerful and beautiful in ways that had nothing to do with her face. And in finding each other, they'd both discovered that sometimes the greatest treasures come in unexpected packages. Sometimes, the monster everyone fears turns out to be the hero everyone needs. And sometimes, the arranged marriage everyone pities turns out to be the true love story everyone dreams of. Emma smiled as Lucas pulled her back into the warm chaos of their celebration, their wolves singing joy through the bond they shared. She'd hidden herself for 3 years, let the world think she was disfigured and broken, all to survive long enough to expose the truth and honor her father's sacrifice. But now, standing beside her mate with her true face revealed for all to see, Emma understood that she'd never been the ugly duckling at all. She'd always been exactly who she was meant to be, powerful, beautiful, and strong enough to weather any storm. She just needed to find someone brave enough to see it. And in Lucas, she'd found not just bravery, but love, partnership, and a future brighter than any. If you enjoyed this video, kindly subscribe to this channel. Also, don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comment section. Also, tap this video showing on your screen to see what happened in this werewolf fantasy story.